Hello. We're going to try take two with Shelly Blanshei. Um, so we went live this morning and um, here she is. And unfortunately, we had some issues with the sound. And so I loved talking to Shelly so much, I thought, let's just do another one and hopefully the sound will be better this time. So get her on here. And I've got Shannon who's gonna let me know how it sounds once she joins. There she is.
Give us a
Take
go.
two. Welcome.
This is
Um,
better.
is that better?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm not getting the echo.
the feedback. Okay, so I have my ear pod in, and I think it was me because when I watched it back, I had my phone sitting on top of stuff, and it was sitting on top of this little pot. And I think it was like echoing inside of there. So it was all my fault. And I feel horrible because it was such a great conversation and it was just hard to hear you. So,
Yeah.
anyways, we will do take two and I'm sure we'll get some more great stuff out
We
of you.
could do, and then we could really see my gray coming in here. It's like, this is my new look, you know?
You look great. You look great. I feel like we kind of have matching little things going on our forehead right now.
Yes,
So,
yeah. I'm embracing the whole, long hair, long bangs. It's
yes,
okay. I'm
I
good.
know. We just have to do it right now, right?
Yes, we do.
So, thank you to everybody who's joining us. We always appreciate having people watching live. And if you are watching and you have questions for Shelly, please post them in the comment section and we'll answer them or have her answer them. So, we talked, a little bit about your business earlier and kind of where you're at and how you're pivoting. And I think that one of the things I wanted to talk a little bit more about is kind of your heart for mentorship and
Mm.
wanting to kind of give what you have learned in the past. Let's see, you said 96 you started Bidwell Perk,
Yeah,
right? So if
yeah,
I can do quick math, where are we, 24 years?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the past 24 years of being a business owner and now multiple businesses under your belt and multiple locations. And so can you talk a little bit about kind of your heart for, I guess, up and coming
Yeah.
businesswomen?
Yeah, I think well, when I first discovered you guys, I was so excited because it's kind of right up my alley. What I think about a lot was that when I started out with Bidwell Perk, um, prior to opening Bidwell Perk, I was a stay-at-home mom for 8 years, and prior to that, I was in management or in sales. So right out of college, that's what I did. Love staying home, and opening up a business with two young kids was really difficult and very stressful. And so I really feel for all the young women that I'm meeting, who are juggling these little babies and toddlers and growing a business. It's really, really a challenge. And I commend everyone because I know how hard it is. Um, I also I didn't really know what the heck I was doing when I opened up Bidwell Perk. And I really learned by trial and error. I made a lot of mistakes. I was not the best manager. I was terrible at hiring people. Like, I would sit down in interviews and I'd go, what do I ask people? And how do I mean, I was like, it was embarrassing. I was really bad. And so the way that I learned is trial and error, reading whatever I can get my hands on. And back then it was very different than it is now.
Mhm.
There wasn't really that much networking and support. So I just kind of did it. And so what I think about often is if I had met somebody back then who had the wealth of knowledge that I have now,
Mhm.
who could say, this is how you interview, and let me give you some tips on this. And just in support of a young woman starting out, it would have made it, it would have been, I probably would have been successful, more successful sooner, or had more wins sooner. Um, the hard stuff I went through, I learned a lot from. So I think that's also part of growing and just all of that. But when you can make it easier on yourself by getting help from somebody who's been through it and has good advice, it really makes a difference. There were a few times that we hired consultants to come in and just kind of observe the business, observe
Mm-hmm.
me, and kind of coach me. And that was awesome. But we paid them for it, and it wasn't cheap. And so I've always thought I want to mentor and help and give back, but I don't care about being charging money for it. I don't want to do it as a consultant. I just want to help young women who are starting out in business. If they have questions or need any kind of support of something that I've already been through, then I'd love to share that.
Yeah, I love that so much. So was there like initially like any questions, I guess thinking back that you wish that you could have asked someone when you were starting out that you didn't?
Oh, yeah, I would say what I struggled with the most. Now, when it came to the guests and the guest experience and what I wanted the guest to experience from our business and what the food tasted like and the drinks tasted like, all of that, I'm thinking back to Bidwell Perk. That wasn't so hard for me. That came very naturally for me, and it was my passion, and I just loved it. I put a lot of my energy into my guests. But what was happening on the other side is I didn't really understand and value the importance of my team. I mean, of course, I cared about my team, but I didn't really understand that type of a relationship and how important it was. And so, and also to begin with, to hire the right people right out of the gate. And I remember reading in this magazine, and they had a little section. It was it's called Fresh Cut Magazine for people in the coffee industry. And they had a little section on HR or hiring. And this guy just said one sentence: hire people who love people. And just
Mm,
reading that, I was like, oh my gosh, there it is. But then how do you do that? How do
yeah,
you find that person? So I would say the people part would be the biggest, is how to hire, how to retain, how to train, how to build a team, how to inspire. Um, those were the things that I would have benefited quite a bit from somebody who could share their knowledge with me.
yeah. One thing I took away from our conversation this morning was, you mentioned when the stay-at-home order was issued, how you like immediately started meeting with your senior management team, like
Hmm.
once a day, I'm
Hmm.
imagining, or I think you kind of mentioned that. And I from that, I hear like that's super important to you, having a team and having a team that is communicative and it sounds to me like you kind of came in and there, you had creative kind of brainstorming as to like where you should go next. That's kind of how I interpreted that. Is that how you operate with your team currently?
Yes and no. My Yes, I mean we get everybody's ideas, but at the end of the day, as owners, we have to make the final decision on how we're going to move forward in something.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not always the most popular, or it really depends on the situation. But collaborative, getting people's ideas, really listening to our leadership team. They're the boots on the ground. I'm in the stores, but not nearly as much as they are. And so really getting their input is really important. But at some point, you have to make sometimes some pretty hard decisions, especially in this climate. Um, but I think that we rallied really well, and we all supported each other. Um, and yeah, so it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I am just kind of starting to understand about, what it's like to work in a team with makers and shakers, which is really an amazing
Mhm.
team of women. And, kind of that process of like collaboration and, brainstorming and all of those things. And do you see like kind of throughout your experience that you've had that, or you've made a team of people and what that looks like and consists of? I mean, has it been like strategic, I guess is kind of my question,
Mm.
when you've brought people around you?
Yeah, my nature is when I like to work in a group. I like to work with I like to get people's input as much as I can. And it's funny because my now ex-husband, we separated a year and a half ago. We're amazing business partners. We still run our business together. But we have very different ways in which we approach this exact subject. He's definitely a collaborator, and we come together and we talk about things, but I'm much more I want to work with people. I've done that forever. It's like I've always got my team around me. He's always worked in the office, and he was the business side of the business, still is. And so he approaches it differently, but we still value the team and what they bring. But sometimes you have to be able to come to a decision and get the team together and say, this is what we've decided. And you can see the faces, and some of them are like, oh, I'm not so sure. But we talk about it. We're transparent about it. We said, we know that some of you don't agree with this, but when we all make a decision together, we have to make a decision as a company. That's the time that we all kind of like dig in and we support each other, and we move forward with whatever that is. But yeah, I grew up in a family of 5 kids, and you don't kind of, you have to kind of like, you have to get along.
Yeah. So do you have any tips for getting along?
I think one of the things that I'm still learning at getting better at, and I think is probably the most important thing as a leader, is to listen and to ask questions. I think the beginning of my career, I kind of thought I had it all figured out. I so didn't. And I always thought the old-fashioned way of, when you're the boss, you're the boss. And I learned pretty quick that doesn't work. But what comes with that is, if you are going to be a good listener, you really need to be. You really need to be mindful of how you listen to people, and really listen to what they're saying. And then from that listening, ask questions. And that I'm still working on. Not interrupting, and really being kind of calm and peaceful, and letting someone finish their thought.
Okay.
So I think the more you do that as a leader, I think that it really helps, and your people really, really love that and value that. You see them and you notice them, and you're hearing, and you may not agree with what they're saying or their idea, but you're really taking it to heart and considering it. So that's something I'm working on, and I think all of us can probably be better listeners.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Has there ever been like a decision that you and your business partner have made that you've looked back and said, we shouldn't have done it that way, and kind of hindsight's 2020, and any big learning points from that? I'm sure.
So many. Okay, so I've got a really good one. Well, maybe I shouldn't bring this up, but so years ago, I'm talking so long ago, when we opened up Bidwell Perk, there was only 3 coffee shops in town, and we were the 4th, and I thought, Chico's good. 4 coffee shops, we're at capacity.
Yeah.
Okay, well, little did I know that everything would change. And so all the drive-through coffee shops started to come into town. And to me, that was kind of like, how can a coffee shop be a drive-through? Yeah. Coffee is all about connection and community, and people coming into your place, and you sit around, you talk to them at their tables, and it's this family. So you can't do that through a window. And I just thought, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of, is a drive-through coffee shop. So we did a campaign where we put billboards up that said, people don't, what was it? Friends don't let friends drive. Remember that whole thing? It was like, friends don't let friends drive through. And we got backlash from it. And if you think about it, it just wasn't a good idea, but we thought it was funny. Yeah. And so, that's a really good example of where you think that something might trigger or be funny or is a good idea, and then you do it and you kind of go, oh, maybe that wasn't so smart.
Yeah, yeah.
And it wasn't. And we took them down. And
I
it
know. I mean,
happens.
it's all about like just trying and doing stuff and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And so, what do you feel like has been one of your most successful ideas? I mean, obviously, Bidwell Perk was a success and T-Bar is a success. But do you feel like there was like one kind of idea that you had that you were like, you just got such a resounding yes from your clientele and
Oh, well, I could talk about both businesses, but from Bidwell Perk, I think that we filled a niche in the community that wasn't there. We really, maybe not so much that it wasn't there, but it was really important to us to have I think the thing that I've learned so much from Lance is that his background is marketing and brand, and he's very good at it. He's very strategic. He's just really brilliant at those things. But I think what I learned is that you really stay true to who you are. So when we opened up Bidwell Perk, we wanted to be a community gathering place, kind of an oasis. When people walked in the door, they were kind of like taken somewhere else, and we took care of them, and we remembered their drink and their name and the whole thing. But we would have a lot of input from a lot of people saying, I wish that you would serve Diet Coke, or I wish that you would serve this and serve that. And we just stayed true to who we were. We stayed the
yeah.
course of who we were. And I think that was a really smart thing to do, because as you just stay the course, you just build your brand and build your brand. And you try not to get too influenced, because that's really easy to do. You want to please your customers, right? So if
Right,
they
yeah.
have suggestions, you want to take care of them and you want to do that for them.
Hmm.
And you can to a certain degree, but we weren't about to start serving, things that just didn't make sense for our business.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I really answered the question, because there was campaigns that we did and different things that we did that were really fun and really brought in a crowd. But uh, I think it was just really being stewards to the business, stewards to our guests and our customer base, and really making sure that we were consistent
Yeah.
and we provided that service every day.
Hmm.
And then with T-Bar, it was really the same thing. It was slow going when we opened that up. It was way before its time. So I say the same thing, just really staying true to what we were, and staying the course,
Yeah.
knowing that it will happen. It'll turn the corner and take off, and it did.
Hmm. And so when T-Bar kind of went from, your first location on Vallambrosia, right? To then you have a second location and then your third was
Third one was Sacramento a year and a half
Sacramento.
ago.
Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
now your fourth is Reading.
Is
So,
ready.
yeah, so when that happened, obviously your brand is strong. Exactly what you said. You guys have stayed the course and now you're able to kind of duplicate what you've been successful at, right? So having the second, third, and now fourth store. Was there like in that transition point from like you've got one successful location and going to a second, what was kind of that process? Was there a moment where you're like, this is working, let's multiply ourselves and do more, or what was kind of your thought process during that time?
Yeah, there was two things that were happening. One is that the Vallambrosia location was busting at the seams. We were so busy, um, 7 days a week, most hours of business, which is wonderful and was great, but stressful. And so we were really starting to see the pressure on the business, and thought, we need to open up another location. So our first thought when we opened up Forest Avenue is like, we need to open up almost like a satellite T-Bar that's going to be more of a to-go business and catering. And it'll be less in-store seating, but it'll be mostly takeout and mostly catering. And it'll support the other store. And that was the idea.
Mm-hmm.
So we went about looking for that spot. We designed it in that fashion. Bigger kitchen to
Yeah.
support catering, smaller dining room, because everyone's over at Vallambrosia. We don't need a bigger dining room. Big mistake. So that was really what got us going to open up a second location. We were a little concerned. People asked us this question, are you worried that it's going to cannibalize, if you open up a second location in Chico, will there be enough business for two? And so you worry about that. And so we considered that. But we opened it up and it's very busy and it's doing wonderful. And it's been a great support. Both stores really support each other. But the dining room is too small.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting to know that that was your inclination initially was for to-goes, because yeah, going in there, the dining room's relatively small. But then you guys, adapted, and now you have that big, beautiful patio, and it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, kind of what we were talking about this morning about pivoting and doing what you need to do when necessity arises. And yeah.
We're very thankful for the big patio now, because with the whatever we're going to learn tomorrow, we know part of it now, but I know there's going to be more regulations. Having a large patio and be able to spread tables and chairs out, I think it's going to be really great for us.
Yeah,
at least great. I hope so. Yeah.
So, what's one big risk that you've taken that like scared the shit out of you?
Oh gosh. Well, opening up well, some of you may know this. Tease Me, we were Tease Me in 2004, and then we changed the name 3 or I don't know how many years later because of a partnership situation. So yeah, getting into that partnership wasn't the best decision in the world, but we got out of it and we survived it. I think opening up Tease Me was a huge risk, and we were naive. Quite honestly, I thought everybody knows us from Bidwell Perk. We've got that great customer base. And when we open up these doors, we're going to get as busy. We're going to be as busy as we were with Bidwell Perk. When we opened up Bidwell Perk, we had lines wrapping the store after we had only been open for 2 weeks. And yeah, I would go in the back room and just cry because I was so exhausted. I mean, it was wonderful. It was all great, but it was exhausting. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And anyway, so I thought, okay, Tease Me is going to be similar. We're going to open this up and we're going to be really busy. And we were ready for that. And so this happened to us twice. So Tease Me didn't do that. And we were way before our time. People had to understand what the heck we were doing with all these tea concoctions. And like I said, it's slowly been doing wonderful. But when we opened up Sacramento, we're in a new environment. People don't know us there, although there's a lot of Chico transplants. And so we learned what it was like to open up in a community that really didn't know us, and how you have to work differently to get the town to know who you are in a bigger urban environment that has 1 million restaurants. And so we're learning through those challenges, and that'll help us with Reading. So I'm not saying Sacramento was a mistake, because it wasn't, and neither was Tease Me, but it was a sleepless nights. I remember my husband would stand in the doorway with his hands on the door jamb, looking out at the parking lot like, where are the people? These are the early days of Tease Me. And we were like, oh my God, we just put all of our savings into this, and but we stayed the course, and it worked out.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you guys utilize social media for Tea Bar?
We do. Yeah. We have a young man who works for us who's helping us with that. We have recently hired a marketing firm out of Sacramento to help us. It's really funny when you have 2 owners that are in their 60s, and we're starting to, we really need to get savvy with all of the social media. It's really important. It's a very big part of helping us. It's really helped us through this pandemic.
I believe that.
It's a really important part of our business. So I'm not the first, I don't know anything about it, and I leave that to the professionals, but yes, we are using social media.
Yeah, I figured you were.
Yeah.
Cool. So anybody that's watching, do you guys have any questions for Shelly? I just love talking to you. You're just
Yeah.
such a wealth of wisdom and yeah. I would love, we should just do this every day, you know, at least one of these a day.
I know we should. I think it's really fun. I would listen. I loved Katie Thomas' interview. That was really fun. It's just, it's really great what you guys are doing. And my door is always open. If there's any young women business owners who have questions about anything, you know, what
Do
it's
you
like to
want
build
to,
a brick and mortar,
yeah,
um, any, just the design, the whole, everything that we go through from start to finish, designing a kitchen, all that stuff.
yeah.
That's
Um,
the part I really love.
so Shannon says you mentioned in the previous live, but can you all about your outlook? Oh, probably talk about
Mm-mm.
your outlook for the future. She just corrected, talk about.
Yeah, I touched on that a little bit. The outlook on the future changed on March 17th when this whole thing came down, although it did before that. This has been a rough couple months. We were a business that was just taking off and expanding. That doesn't mean that we still aren't, but we have definitely are looking at things differently. So outlook for the future was 2 more stores in 2020 and 2 or 3 more in 21. Looking for sites in Sacramento and other towns. All of that stopped. We are hunkering down, taking care of the businesses that we have, which are 3 now, fourth to be open, and really just really pivoting and looking at how we are going to be running these businesses in this new environment, because
Mhm.
I don't think this is going away soon. And so we want to keep our people employed. We want to be whole again. My husband and I, ex-husband, I'm not used to saying that. We both have taken major cuts in our salary. It's like, this is about keeping our business going and doing everything that we possibly can to do that. And also really the safety of our community and our staff is really at the forefront.
Yeah.
So it's different. It's
Yeah.
different than what it was, but we're going to
Mhm.
be okay and we're adjusting to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to ask too, do you have a email address that you want to give out for people if they have questions and want to
Yes.
reach out to you?
Yeah, I think my best email address is my business one, which is Shelly at ilovetbar.com. And that is Shelly at ilove. And then T-bar is just a TBAR.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me again.
Yes, so much
And
better without the echo.
I know, and I know it was my fault. Yeah. So, anyways, yes, thank you so much, and always a pleasure to talk to you. And
Yes,
have a
you
great
too.
rest of your Monday. And thank you
Yes,
guys
you
for
too.
joining us.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Stay safe.
All right.
Keep it going and keep the faith. We're going to be all right.
Yes.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye.